record and we will get into it. So this whole thing will be recorded. So for you attending, you will, thanks Katie, yeah, super pumped you're here. So I'll send an email of this recording to everybody who's here today so that you can watch it later, or if you know someone who might benefit from this info, then absolutely send it their way. It's good to see you too, Katie. I've definitely missed you. And it's, yeah, the world is definitely, these kinds of ways that we can stay connected with each other are just so important right now. Verify we're recording, and sweet. All right, so as I had said before, I love an active chat, so just keep popping your questions in as they come up, or if you have any thoughts, please feel free to just send them right in there. So what is today? What is a masterclass? You can think of it as a crash course. So this is going to be an opportunity for me to share with you some of the really effective tools that I have come up with and discovered and been using for the past, almost decade that I've been in the yoga and fitness industry. So a little bit about me. My name is Jess. I use she and her for pronouns, and I am a NASM certified personal trainer and behavioral change specialist and corrective exercise specialist. And I am also a precision nutrition coach, level 1, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So I've been teaching yoga for about 8 years, a personal trainer for about 4 years, and then the last 3 or so years I've been running the yoga and fitness program at a local climbing gym called the Minneapolis Bouldering Project, which I really love. And I feel like the reason I bring up my history is because I feel like it kind of sums up how I feel about health and fitness and wellness, which is, it is a very big collective holistic thing. And so that's where my philosophy really comes from. So when we talk about getting unstuck and moving forward, it's a combination of mindset and tangible actions. Okay. So I'm going to start by establishing some framework, establishing some base level concepts that'll help everything I'm going to teach as far as the actionable steps have a good place to land. Okay, so the first thing I want you to start considering is that humans are cyclical creatures. So instead of progress looking like this linear, constant path that goes upwards, it's actually more natural for us to go through cycles and seasons. And the way to get unstuck is not actually to figure out how to break through and continue on this steady cycle, but it's to learn where you're at in your seasons so that you can effectively and gracefully navigate this point in your life. So we all start in, I'll start off by explaining the spring. So imagine that you're in a spring of your life. You've just fallen in love, or you went off to college, or you just got a new job, right? So you found a new set of beliefs. You found a new way of acting and being that just feels really right. And you're feeling this momentum. Progress feels effortless. And then eventually you transition into a summer. Now things here start to solidify. You develop some mastery. You get out of that honeymoon phase. You start to have some challenges, but this is no longer new. This is just your life now. And it feels great because your identity begins to solidify in this place that you're in. And from the summer, then you move into fall, where you're no longer solidifying, you are established. Things start to shift. You get really comfortable. Your beliefs, your identity, your career, your relationship, it's steady. It is what it is. And then progress starts to take a lot more work. You're no longer getting that momentum that you had early in the spring, which then the fall inevitably leads to winter, which is where you start to realize, oh, what I'm doing isn't working. And it doesn't mean that you need to change everything in your life. By no means does it mean that. It just means that you've realized that what you were doing before needs either something new injected into it, you need a new mindset, but you're starting to feel this stagnation. And this is where a lot of people are right now, because winter can be brought on by just life happening and the natural cycles, the natural stagnations that happen. It can be brought on by an event just kicking your life out of the norm that you had, say maybe a global pandemic or a relationship ends. And eventually we get back to a spring and we start to repeat that cycle. But what happens is when we start to feel stuck is when we're in any of those stages and we're resisting it. We either want to get back to where we were before or we're trying to jump ahead. So what I want to help you do today is learn to be in the stage that you're in and start thinking about goals and visions that will help you to navigate to this next phase, okay? So there are some patterns. You feel all sorts of different ways in all of the different phases of our cycle. But one thing that's really common is that it feels really great to be in a spring and it feels really not that great to be in a winter. I think we're all familiar with that. So something to start off with is just accepting that we don't need to feel awesome all the time, right? Success comes from learning to navigate all of the different variables in each of these seasons, especially the ones that are really challenging, okay? So remember that feeling stuck is totally normal and you don't need to be afraid of it. And just because you feel stuck doesn't mean that you are stuck. It's just your intuition telling you that it's time for your season to change. So that's what we're gonna be working on today, okay? So a couple of other mindset things that I really want to lay down before we get into the nitty gritty. Meaningful growth comes from a place of self-acceptance, okay? So Western culture tells us that we need to be disillusioned with ourselves to grow. We need to dislike something about ourselves to grow. And you need to unlearn that cultural norm and trust that steady, consistent progress will get you where you want to go. And that all emotions are welcome in this journey because transformations are just really challenging and they're supposed to push us to a place of discomfort. And it's okay to be in the flow of all of that and embrace every piece of it. Another thing to start to think about is that everything that's happening in your life is happening for you to help you grow, okay? So the challenges that you're having right now, they are here to teach you what you need to know to move to your next season. They are supposed to be here, okay? You need to trust me in that. You're here in this workshop for a reason. You're feeling stuck for a reason. This is all a part of your complex human experience. So work to be in that. Another thing to think about is that even though changes can happen fast, transformations are slow. So we're going to work on skills today that will help you to really play that long game and to see lasting transformations over an extended period of time, because fast results are not only not sustainable, but they don't actually help us grow holistically. They don't actually help us grow on this like really deep level that transformations from this place of self-acceptance come from. Yeah, seriously, the intuition, Chelsea says that she loves thinking about the intuition, telling you to move to the next stage. Like that is really what it's all about, is being okay with where you're at enough to really listen to what that intuition is telling you. Yeah, that's a great reminder. Hop in the chat if this brings up anything for you. I want to hear all about it. Okay, so here is what you all came here for. The formula for getting unstuck. Okay, are you ready? This is what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you the formula for getting unstuck. Then we're going to break down each specific part of the process so that you understand it and you understand how to apply it in your life to see how it fits as a whole. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to you right away. Don't feel a need to remember it because we'll break down all the pieces. Getting unstuck comes from daily actions, which accumulate into ongoing practices, which build into new skills, which add up to complete a goal, which is maintained through accountability and support, along with adjusting as you go. Okay, so I will, in a minute here, after we talk about goals, I'll bring up an infographic that will help you to contextualize all of that. But right away, I want to talk about goals, because everything that we are going to talk about comes from reverse engineering a goal. Coming up with the correct goal is the most important part of this process, because that's what gives you direction for your actions, your practices, and your skills to be building up to this whole pie that is your goal, okay? So we're going to reverse engineer, starting with what is an effective goal. Okay. So you'll hear people talk about SMART goals a lot. That works really well. A lot of pieces of that work really well for some people. So SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. I think the most important part of that is relevant. What is the goal that's relevant to you? And I think the piece of it that can be really damaging actually is time bound. So be careful of setting your goals on a timeline, because as my coach likes to say, the universe has its own timeline. Who are we to tell it what the timeline is? And it can be really discouraging to have that time run out and be like, oh, I didn't achieve my goal. And then you don't necessarily feel like moving forward. So really consider if time bound is helpful for you or harmful, because it can go either way. Okay, so an effective goal is a visualized outcome. We use that same acronym in your profession. Cool. What's your profession that you use that acronym in, Molly? I feel like, yeah, the SMART goal thing is super helpful. Emergency management. All right. I love it. It's so applicable. And that's what we'll talk about this in a minute too, but like what we're talking about here, this process is applicable in health and fitness. Yes, that's mostly my experience, but it works in any aspect of your life that you're looking to get unstuck and grow. Okay. So an effective goal. SMART goals work great. A visualized outcome that creates a strong, compelling feeling for you. Okay. So when you think about your goal, you're going to think it in your head, and you'll know if it's the right goal because you'll have a visceral reaction. It will feel right for you in your body. It will make you excited. It will make you a little bit scared, a little bit doubtful, a little bit nervous, right? All of these feelings are signs that you are on the right path. An effective goal is meant to serve you. You do not serve the goal. Okay. So it doesn't have the word should involved in it at all. I should eat better. I should do this. No. It's all about what's going to serve you. And this goes back to that idea of starting from a place of self-acceptance and self-compassion, because when we do, everything that we transform into is going to be a representation of our best self. Whereas when we come from a place of fear and lack and not being enough, then we're not going to be able to feel empowered and embodied in that future. So yeah, it really comes from that love and abundance. And the other thing to think about is if you make a goal that comes from feeling like you're not good enough. So a really good example, I've seen it 1,000,001 times, is I want to lose weight because I'm not, people won't say it this way, but I want to lose weight because I'm not good enough at the weight I'm at, is essentially what people feel. And then they lose the weight and then they still don't feel good, right? So it's like, even if you achieve the wrong goal, you still won't have the lasting transformation that you're seeking. So really take your time with this step in the process, because number one, you don't have to have your goal figured out right now. And number two, it really does take time, because the other piece of having a goal that works is that you need to know exactly why your goal is your goal. That deep why is what's going to keep you going when times get hard, when things aren't lining up for you, when you have to change your plan. So take the time to develop exactly why it is that you have that goal. So to develop an effective goal, you need the vision, the why. And another thing that is super crucial here is you need to ask yourself, what will be different about your life, or what will you be able to do in the future that you cannot do now when you achieve this goal? That's what makes it a transformation. So a great example is my roommate, Ellen. She is on this call as well. Hey, Ellen. She has a goal of learning to do pull-ups without hurting her shoulder, because she's had some shoulder issues for a while. And so her goal is to do that so that she can climb trees, and she's a tree climber by trade, and rocks without pain, right? So it's like that goal for her, it has this vision of her being able to do these things that she wants to do that she can't do if she has the pain. So think of that when you're trying to come up with a goal. It's like, what is going to allow you to do something different that you cannot do right now? That's what's going to move the dial. Okay. Yeah. Favorite tree climber. Ellen is very beloved for great reason. So don't be afraid to dream big here as well. So just because in the past you may have not been able to accomplish big goals, or because in the past you have for some reason felt like it was out of your scope, I want to encourage you to start opening up your mind, to start expanding what is possible, because with the tools I'm going to give you today, you're going to have the skills to accomplish goals that you would not have been able to accomplish before, because you'll start thinking of it as more of a scientist, as more of a reverse engineering of this outcome. Okay, so before we get into that process, I want to say one more thing about goals. And this is just a note to people who are feeling really stuck. And it's a lot of people. I've been in the DMs on Instagram talking with a lot of people who have been saying that they feel stuck in their relationships, their careers, where they're living, just with the pandemic. And to those people, I just want to say that it's okay to not have it all figured out right now. And that instead of thinking about solving all of these things at one time, what I really encourage you to do is focus on one specific thing to start with, and make sure that it's something that you are already ready, willing, and able to change, okay? And it doesn't need to be like this massive perfect goal. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for something that feels right and can get you moving forward, okay? And also make it a goal which improves your health and your well-being and the way you feel physically, because let me tell you, when you start to take care of your physical body, everything else in your life starts to shake out. And I promise you that. And just like as a share from personal experience with this, earlier in 2020, I was getting to the end of one of my winters, and I realized that I really needed to move forward. And so my good friend Mercedes was randomly offering a nutrition course at that time. And now I don't believe it was random at all. I believe that it was definitely like the right time for me to start moving forward. And turns out listening to that little nudge, taking this nutrition course with my friend started to get me unstuck. It started to get my brain moving and thinking, yeah, not random at all, Chelsea. It started to get me thinking, oh, I actually am feeling discontent because I miss working with people one-on-one. I haven't been doing that for so long. And through all of this work and talking with Mercedes about this, discovered that I really wanted to own my own business. And so she was able to connect me with my business coach. And now here I am owning my own online business and moving forward and making progress in every aspect of my life. And I can trace all of that back to deciding to work on my nutrition, because I felt like that could use some support. So just a reminder that progress begets progress, and to create momentum, you just got to start moving. All right. So, and the final thing I want to say about goals is we do not feel ourselves into a new way of doing. We do into a new way of feeling. Okay. So don't worry about getting things perfect. Just get started. Okay. So enough about goals. You got a lot to sit with when it comes to goals. Alexis, hey. And I want to now break down the process of achieving a goal, because it's actually quite scientific and quite straightforward and a lot less mystical than it seems. So to achieve a goal reliably, you do three things. Like I said, you break the goal down into specific skills. You work on those skills through targeted practices, and then you break those practices down into daily actions that build up to create habits that support you in a lasting transformation. Okay, that's the secret sauce right there. I'm gonna go ahead and do a screen share now so that you can see what this looks like when we are applying it. And share. Cool. Oh gosh. All right. So this is what it looks like. So we start off at the top with our goal, which we just established how you create a goal. Next, you brainstorm what skills are going to start to move you in the direction of that goal. And they don't need to be perfect by any means, but they just need to get your brain working, starting to visualize what will look different in your life when you're achieving this goal. Because when you think about it again, The goal is a transformation. So these skills are skills that you don't have yet, that once you have them, you will be able to do the thing that is this goal, right? So a skill, just think of it as an ability, a competency, or a capacity to move forward towards a goal. So a really great example would be to exercise consistently or to follow a schedule that you set for yourself. Those are skills. Okay, so next we're going to think up some practices, and these are going to be like an application, right? And like an exercise that will help you practice being competent at the skill. So a great example would be meal prepping. It would be planning out your weeks beforehand, right? These are going to help you build skills. Then those practices break down into daily actions. So these are very, very small activities, the daily actions are, that are specific, they are concrete, and they are done at a predictable time. They are laughably easy, because what we're trying to do with these actions is turn them into overtime habits. And when they become habits, you no longer need to make a decision to do them, because they're just a part of your daily life and they're just a part of what you do. Okay, so once your worksheet is complete, and I'll be sending a copy of this to everybody who signed up for this here today, that you can fill in on your own so that you can use these skills for your application in life, okay? So once you fill out the worksheet that you will be receiving, you review the plan. How does it look? How does it make you feel? Do you have the expertise that you need to know that the actions are building up to the larger goal? Do you know that the goal is appropriate for you? So think through those things. And then an extremely important question is to think through, what will you do for support and accountability throughout this whole process? That is one of the absolute most important variables here. And I'm going to pause for just a second and let you know, this is the perfect time to let you know that the reason why I put on this masterclass in the first place is because a huge part of achieving any goal is this process. But the only thing that actually makes your goal happen is consistent action over time. And the number one way to make sure that your goal is the right goal for you, that your plan is the right plan, and that you have the accountability and motivation to do the process is to hire a coach. So I'm super stoked to announce that I am going to be taking on a handful of women and women identifying coaching clients. And if you're interested in working with me, I'm going to go ahead and drop the application in the chat right. No worries, Dan. Right now. Nope, that's the Zoom link. Just kidding. You all know the Zoom link. You're already here. Thanks, Katie. There we go. So that's the application for coaching, and you'll also be receiving that in a follow-up email, and it will also be my link in bio. But with working with me as your coach, you can expect to identify exactly where you're feeling stuck and the best place for you to start moving forward to get that momentum going again. And I also want to be clear, it's going to be a lot of work, but you'll know that it's the right work to start up-leveling your life and building confidence and energy and seeing that tangible progress. So, because I'm a coach, because it lights me up to be a catalyst for these types of processes. And I truly believe that when we spend this time investing in ourselves, it's the most important work that we do. And so coaching looks different for everybody based off of what they specifically need, but everything comes down to this core philosophy that everything that we do on a small, consistent level will create change over time. So everything is really focused on creating lasting transformations. And every woman that I work with receives a custom fitness plan to optimize her strengths, her goals, a nutrition plan to help with her unique needs. And so we'll be really working on relationships with food, breaking any cycles of yo-yo dieting, and making sure that there's certainty about what's the right food for any person in any given environment. A weekly 1-hour Zoom call to work on the skills that we'll be working with together. And then also it'll be aided by the fact that you'll have access to me 24/7 via voice memo Voxer support. So you'll have support through the entire process. These programs are 12 weeks in length, and having coached people through life-changing transformations and having been coached through life-changing transformations, I can tell you it freaking works. So you're here in this workshop for a reason, because you're ready for a transformation. So if you feel like you're ready to take massive action, just go ahead, hop into the application and apply. So yeah, if you're a lady interested working with me, or if you know a lady who'd be interested, just send them along my way. All right, got it? Super cool. So before we get back to the process of achieving goals, there's another thing I want to share, because the idea of accountability, so whether or not you work with me, I really want you to think about what you're doing for support, because screen share, here we go. So I've made this infographic that breaks down the challenges of transforming into a graph. So on the y-axis here, we have how much support you have from least to most. And then on the x-axis, the bottom, we have the difficulty of the task. So when you're thinking about setting up support for your goal, think about it this way. If you are in quadrant 1, where you have a ton of support and your task is really easy, you're gonna feel smothered and you are not gonna grow. It's gonna be a bad time. If you are in quadrant 2, where you have no support and the task is really easy, then you're bored. You're sitting on your couch watching Netflix, not relevant. If you are in quadrant 3 and you have a super challenging task and you have very little support, I think we've all been here, you're panicked. And even if you do grow, it's not gonna feel very good. But number 4, transforming, when you have a really challenging task, but you also have a ton of support, that's where transformations happen. That's where results happen. So that's where coaching lives, right? Is in that high difficulty, high support environment. And that's really where we want to get you unstuck and get you moving forward. Because by nature, to grow, you have to challenge yourself. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And as a human, you need support to do it. Okay. So take that and really think about, what are you going to do to make sure you have the support you need? And we'll go back to this real quick, because there's a couple other things I do want to say about it. So once you have this whole worksheet filled in and you have an idea of what your goal is, your skills, your practices, your actions, pick one action and do it for a minimum of 2 weeks before trying to add in a new action. Okay, so this infographic is from Precision Nutrition, where I did my nutrition coaching certification, and they've done a lot of research on how poorly we integrate more than one habit at a time. So no matter what you're doing, try and think about doing just one skill at a time, integrate it into a habit, and then move on to the next thing, okay? And it's gonna be really hard to do that, because it feels like you're not making much progress, because if your habit is to spend 5 minutes a day stretching, or to, meal prep one day for the week, like, it doesn't feel like a lot, but it is those steady, consistent actions over time that build to success. And you just have to trust me in that. And then you'll see the results that will verify as we go. And then you also have to iterate as you go. So make sure that you're adjusting based off of what you learn, and not getting too stuck in any one of these different practices. Like, this isn't dogma. This is just a framework to get you moving forward. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of going to wrap things up here, is that there are a few really important things that I've observed over the last decade that I've been in the health and fitness industry that differentiates the people who can grow and can move forward, and the people who stay really stuck. And these are all learned skills. None of it is inherited. We can do all of these things. And in fact, so these are in no particular order. But the first thing that we need to do in order to be a person who gets unstuck and who achieves their potential is to develop a growth mindset. So this means that you decide that greatness is made through hard work and it is not born. You decide that you want to get feedback instead of avoiding it. You seek out your weaknesses and work to improve them instead of hiding from them. And you listen to people and what they have to say with an open mind. And these are all really, really hard things to do, but they're very important mindsets to start thinking about in order to move forward. Okay, so number 2 is to accept that growth and progress, these are going to take a long time. And it's okay. And it is why it's so important to do the work to be okay with where you're at right now, because rejecting where you're at right now and waiting until your next improvement to be okay, that means that you will never be okay because you will always be waiting for that next improvement. So just make sure that you're always doing that work to build self-compassion and self-acceptance. Learn to embrace the suck. That is one of the most important things too, because challenging emotions will arise. They are not a flaw in the process of transformations. They are a feature in the process of transformations. As my coach Chelsea likes to say, the breakdown or the breakthrough is in the breakdown, something along those lines. But yeah, it's really important to just accept that challenging emotions are going to be a part of this. Remember that everything is on a continuum. So there is no right or wrong. There's only what is best and what is going to work for you right now. So instead of thinking about, I need to get it right to move forward, think about, I need to get just a little bit better every day to move forward. That's what we're focusing on here, is switching our brains to be in that state. Yes, and the emotions are temporary. Totally. Max has got the great yogic philosophy. I love that. It's so important to remember that, like, all of the emotions, the highs and the lows, are just moments in the transformative process. Okay, so the other thing is you need to really pay attention to what is and what is not in your scope of control. So that's why when people are having a hard time with careers or relationships or things that feel really out of control, they make you feel really powerless. The first thing that I do is redirect attention to, well, what can I control? Because that's where you're going to start to feel powerful and start to feel like you can get yourself moving forward. And it's okay to not feel motivated all the time. You don't need to feel confident all the time. We're not supposed to. And it goes back to that idea of, we don't feel ourselves into a new way of doing, we do ourselves into a new way of feeling. So just remember that as you keep moving forward. And the last 2 really big things are that this is all just a big experiment, right? There's no right answer. The only correct thing that we can do is keep pushing forward and keep trying to figure out what's working for you and growing. So if there's the biggest thing to take away, is that getting unstuck means not stopping until you feel like you're moving forward. And let this be a sign to you. Let this experience here allow you to expand and open your mind to different possibilities and opportunities that you may have thought weren't possible for you, but really they just needed you to have a little bit of a broader perspective. Okay? You already have all of the answers inside of you that you need. I promise you that. My job, or any other coach's job, is not to give you answers, but it's to teach you skills and ask you the right questions so that you can uncover those answers that you already have inside you, which I promise you are all already there. And that is what I have for you. Do you have any other questions for me about? Yeah, love that. It's such a good coaching philosophy. Yeah, so if anybody has anything that comes up, you can always shoot me an email after this. Just respond to the email that I'm going to send you that has a copy of this, of a replay of this masterclass. And again, if you think that you'd be a great fit to work with me one-on-one, Would you suggest working on just one goal at a time? I would suggest, yes, I would. I would suggest you pick one goal and make sure that the skills that you will need to develop to achieve that goal work together and they help you. So if you pick, so say that your goal is like, I want to climb V10, which is a really hard rock climbing game or grade. You would have to dial in your nutrition. You would have to think about your training. You'd have to think about your relationships. Who are you spending time with, right? So like a really good goal is going to encompass a lot of different parts of your life and encourage you to grow in a lot of different ways. That's a great question, Anne. Thank you. Yes. Any other questions? Cool. I'm so pumped that everybody was here today. It really means a lot. This was my first webinar that I've ever hosted. So the fact that you all showed up to hang out means so much to me. Yes, you guys are so great. And again, you can find me on Instagram at Intergalactic Jess. You can email me at any time. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I love chatting. And yeah. Well, you guys are, oh, it's so kind. I appreciate it so much. Well, I will look forward to connecting with you all again in the future. And thanks. Oh, you're all so kind. Well, I will let you all go here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.